तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नम इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। नारायणं पद्मभुवं वसिष्ठं शक्तिं च तत्पुत्रपराशरं च व्यासं शुकं गौडपदं महान्तं गोविन्दयोगीन्द्रमथास्य शिष्यं श्रीशङ्कराचार्यमथास्य पद्मपादं च हस्तामलकं च शिष्यं तन्तोटकं वार्तिककारमन्यान् अस्मद्गुरून् सन्ततमानतोऽस्मि। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठं अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यै सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे। नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रिय ब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Om. I welcome you all to the 27th class of the Fundamentals of Vedanta series. How does an adhikari become an adhikari? This is the question we have been looking into. And we said that the adhikari becomes an adhikari by gaining sadhana chatushtaya sampattihi, vivekaha, vairagyam, shatka sampattihi, and mumukshutvam. Now, how does one gain these qualifications? That is what we are focusing on now. And that is the Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga that we have been discussing for the past few classes. Why is this important? Because as we said, the Jiva is not just ignorant, but the Jiva is turbulently ignorant. If the Jiva was just ignorant, then the words of Guru and the words of Shastra would work. They would do their job and knowledge would rise. But since the Jiva is turbulently ignorant, the Jiva has to be quietened down first before the knowledge can be administered, before the teaching can be given. So now, what is it that makes the Jiva turbulently ignorant? We said there are two impurities involved in the mind. One is malaha, the other is vikshepaha. Then malam, as we said, is samskaratmana. It's of the nature of past impressions, of the nature of vasanas. And what do? They make the jiva attracted towards nishiddha karma, prohibited actions, or attracted towards sense objects. That keeps the jiva constantly occupied. Vikshepaha is preoccupation of the mind. We said that this malam is addressed through karma yoga. The vikshepaha is addressed through upasana yoga. Now, in order to understand what Karma Yoga is, we said that we have to understand 4 subtopics. One is, what are these samskaras, vasanas that constitute the malam that we are talking about? Number 2, what are the ragas and dveshas, likes and dislikes? And how do they rise? What are the causes for their rising? And what problems can they cause? Number 3 is Ishvara. Who is Ishvara? And number 4 is Dharma. When all these subtopics are understood, then we can bring them together. We can tie them together and see what Karma Yoga really is and how Karma Yoga accomplishes what it is supposed to accomplish. So, with regards to vasanas, he said these are of the nature of past impressions. And how are they created? By my own past karmas. Now, as we said, these vasanas cannot directly cause any vyaparaha. They cannot directly cause speech or action in the world. They have to manifest in the form of raga, dvesha, vrittis in the conscious mind. So the vasanas, as we said, are unmanifest. I don't even know that they exist. The only way I get to know that they exist is when they manifest in the form of raga, dvesha, vrittis in the conscious mind. They helplessly arise in the conscious mind, the raga, dvesha, vrittis. Now, for a person who doesn't have Atma Jnanam, who knows that I am there, but who doesn't have the Vishesha Jnanam of who this I really is. So such a person ends up superimposing the attributes of the body and the mind upon this I am. Just as one, if somebody doesn't know a rope as a rope, one superimposes the idea of a snake upon it. So similarly, as long as I don't know myself, I make a mistake about myself. And therefore, I superimpose the attributes of the body and the mind upon myself. And then what happens? These raga dveshas arise in the mind. So I stake a claim to these raga dveshas, saying these are my raga dveshas. I have these likes, I have these dislikes. And this person is already saying, I am apurnaha, because being identified with the body and the mind, I am a speck in this huge universe. I am a very tiny creature and I'm subject to all kinds of forces. So I'm already saying I am apurnaha. And when these raga dveshas arise, which say that I like this, I don't like this, then that makes this person restless, being apurnaha. And now he's saying, I like this, I don't like this. So whatever the object of the like is, he's pushed towards it. He cannot rest until he obtains that object of his like. And similarly, he cannot rest until he pushes away the object of his dislike, because that is the only way this person knows of gaining some fulfillment, by quenching his ragas and dveshas. And these ragas and dveshas, if they are strong, they can even make this person commit adharma in the process. Because this tendency, this desire to acquire something or push away something is so strong, one may even resort to adharma. That is why Krishna says, Tayor na vasham agachet. So Krishna is not saying that don't have these ragas and dveshas, because they helplessly arise from the vasanas. But Krishna says, don't come under their spell. Now, how not to come under their spell? The ultimate solution is Atma Jnanam. When one sees that one is full, complete, limitless, that Purnam Brahma, when one understands this, then these ragas and dveshas lose their hold on the personality. They cannot disturb this person anymore. So they become non-binding ragas and dveshas. Because this person says, I have some preferences. If they are met, that is fine. If they are not met, it is okay. It doesn't affect me in any way because I am Purna. But then, as we said, that as long as these ragas and dveshas are strong, as long as they are tightly holding this person, then the knowledge cannot work. Because this person is turbulent. And in a turbulent mind, the knowledge cannot take place. Therefore, the intermediate solution is to loosen the hold of these ragas and dveshas. So these ragas and dveshas need to be converted into preferences. Whether they are there, I'm okay. Whether they are there, I'm not okay. This person still doesn't have Atma Jnanam. But he somehow needs to be able to loosen the hold of the ragas and dveshas to come to this point, and this is what we call samatvam. Samatvam means an equanimity of the mind, an equipoise of the mind, no matter what the state of the world is. So one has to cultivate in the intermediate term a value for this samatvam and try to pursue the means for acquiring it. A means for acquiring the samatvam is karma yoga. So the difference between karma, just karma, versus karma as yoga is that in karma, the intent is to align the world. The focus is on the world, that the world should reconfigure according to my expectations. According to my ragas and dveshas, I have to arrange the world. This, we said, is a futile process. It lands one in samsaraha, the never-ending seeking for fulfillment in the domain of artha, kama and dharma. But when karma is done as yoga, then the ultimate aim is to loosen the hold of my own ragas and dveshas. The ultimate aim is not to reconfigure the world. I can try to reconfigure the world according to my preferences. But if that doesn't happen, then that doesn't upset me. That doesn't disturb me. Why? Because I distance myself from my own ragas and dveshas. So the very actions that we dismissed as capable of giving rise to Atma Jnanam. We said Atma Jnanam, Jnanam is never a product of karma. We said that Jnanam only arises through a pramana, through the application of a pramana. So the very actions that we dismissed as being incapable of giving rise to Jnanam, we engage in the same actions for the purpose of purification of the mind in Karma Yoga. So with this, we discussed what vasanas and raga dveshas are. And then we came to the third topic, which is Ishvara. And we said that every effect has a cause. There is no effect without a cause. And this world is an effect because this world originated at some point. Even scientists agree with it, that this world originated at some point. So the world must have a cause. What is this cause? If we ask the scientists will say that the Big Bang is the cause of the world. There was an explosion 13 billion years ago where the entire universe at that point was compressed in some tiny speck, and then it all exploded and it spewed out all this matter that constitutes the world today. That is what the scientist says. But if we ask the scientist what caused the Big Bang, the scientist says we don't have an answer. We don't know. So science doesn't have an answer to this, and science doesn't have an answer to many of the other questions, like how does consciousness arise out of matter? Science is a highly materialistic paradigm. For them, the ultimate thing is matter, and from matter, they somehow try to explain the arising of consciousness. Vedanta says that effort will never be successful. Vedanta says consciousness is primary. Before this universe came into existence, consciousness was there. A conscious being was there. And that conscious being is Ishvara. Vedanta says that this conscious being, Ishvara, is the cause of this world. So when we try to look into the causes of any creation, as we took the example of a car, if we dump all the materials that make up a car, like the rubber, plastic, steel, copper, glass, etc., on top of one another, and we just wait, then all the materials will just rot. It won't turn into a car. So wherever there is this purposefully put together functional object that we see, then we know that there is some intelligence behind the creation. Similarly, behind this universe also, we say there has to be an intelligent cause. One who has the knowledge and the skill to create that object. So this universe must have an intelligent cause. And there must be materials also that are required that the intelligent cause uses to put together the final product. So now, if we take the example of a potter creating a pot, then the potter is an intelligent cause. The potter has the knowledge and the skill required to create a pot. And the potter gets the clay. From this creation, this universe already has clay. Similarly, a carpenter has the knowledge and the skill to create furniture, but he needs the materials. He gets it from this creation. So in this, the intelligent cause and the material cause are always different. Now, many theologies, as we discussed, they if we ask them what created, how was the universe created? They say there was an intelligent cause. There is an intelligent cause for this universe. And we don't disagree with that. But then what happens is they put the intelligent cause in heaven, in some corner of the universe. And they say that this God sitting in heaven created the universe. And we say that that view leads to all kinds of questions, uncomfortable questions. Because if God sitting in heaven created this universe, then it naturally raises the question of who created that heaven? And where was God before that heaven was created? There are no good answers for that. And moreover, where did God get all this material to create this universe? Again, no good answer for that. And what we say is that even space is a part of the creation. Even space did not exist upfront. Before this universe came into being, even space did not exist, and even science agrees with that. So then where is the room for a God in heaven when heaven is in space and space itself doesn't exist? So Vedanta dismisses this idea of God sitting in heaven created the universe. What does Vedanta say? We say Vedanta says that this conscious being, Ishvara, was there. This consciousness is something much, much, much more subtler than space. Even space. We say that space can be comprehended only through one sense organ, which is Akasha, which is space being Akasha, can be comprehended only through my sense of hearing. That is why when I put like a pot to my ear, I hear this sound. So space only has one attribute of sound. It is the subtlest of the Pancha Mahabhutas. But we say that consciousness is even subtler than space. It is nirguna. It doesn't have any attributes. And therefore, consciousness can be there without space. The beginning of the creation, we say this consciousness was there. This consciousness, in existence, consciousness was there. We will talk a lot more about this later. But we said this is Ishvara. So now the question arises that you are saying, okay, Ishvara was there, and that Ishvara is the intelligent cause who has the knowledge and the skill. But then where did this Ishvara get the materials from? This is where we said Vedanta gives a stunning reply to this. Vedanta says Ishvara doesn't need to look for any materials. Ishvara himself becomes the material for this world. Ishvara becomes the world. Just as gold becomes ornaments. Wherever the ornament is, gold is there. Similarly, wherever this world is, Ishvara is there. The Upanishad gave the example of the spider. Yathornanabhihi srijate grinhate cha. Yatha prithivyaam aushadayas sambhavanti yatha satah purushat keshalomani tatha ksharat sambhavati vishva. So a spider weaves this web. So it has the knowledge and the skill to weave this web. But then where does the spider get the material for weaving the web? From within itself. Ishvara, the Upanishad gives this example that Ishvara finds the material within himself. Tatha aksharat sambhavati havishvam. The same way from that akshara means the imperishable one, the entire universe has emerged. So what we call the world, what we are calling the world has emerged from Ishvara, the creation. This world is Ishvara. So this is where we said that there is a Vedantic logic where A is B, but B is not A. All the ornaments are gold. Ornaments cannot exist without gold. The ornaments, if you look at the reality of the ornaments, it is gold. But gold can be without any ornaments. Without in gold, there can be a lump of gold which is not in the form of any ornament. Similarly, this world is Ishvara. But Ishvara can be without the world. So the sun, the moon, the stars, the galaxies, the rivers, the waterfalls, whatever we look at, Ishvara is right there. Any name and form we pick in this world, Ishvara is right there. It is Ishvara. It is a name and form of Ishvara only. Ishvara is a material cause, and therefore Ishvara pervades the entire universe. If Ishvara was only the intelligent cause, then Ishvara wouldn't pervade the entire universe. Ishvara would be sitting on the corner of the universe somewhere. Just like a potter doesn't pervade the pot. Why? Because the potter, being the intelligent cause, is different from the product, is different from the materials. So the pot can be exported from India to United States, but the potter doesn't get exported, thankfully. But in this case, it's not like that. The product is Ishvara, the product, the Ishvara is both the maker and the material. So the product is the material, the product is the maker in that form. The maker has become the product. So this is a very, very important insight from Vedanta that has to be assimilated. Because we have our ideas about Ishvara, but Ishvara being somewhere else. Vedanta says this is how one needs to learn to look at Ishvara. And that's why Pujya Swamiji says we don't have many gods. We don't even have one God. We have only God. Wherever I see, there is God only. That is the vision one has to come to. And this vision, when I'm talking about this, is not like one sees the form of that God everywhere. I have my personal God and I see that personal God sitting everywhere. That is not what we are talking about. There is a place for a personal Ishta Devata. When we are talking about this is a vision through understanding. It is through my Jnana Chakshuhu. Through the eye of knowledge, I need to see that this is what it is. And therefore, in Sanatana Dharma, Ishvara can be invoked in any form. And that is why we have no qualms about worshipping a tulasi plant, or worshipping a banyan tree, or worshipping a river, or worshipping a kanya, or even a dampati, an elderly couple, or worshipping an image, a murti of Ishvara in a temple. We can invoke Ishvara in anything and worship that Ishvara, because wherever that form is, Ishvara is right there. So now the question arises about how am I related to this Ishvara? How am I related? What is the relationship between me and Ishvara? So as we said, Ishvara pervades everything. Therefore, Ishvara should pervade me too. And that is the truth. That I am not different from this Ishvara. That is the final truth that Vedanta talks about. That you are that. Tat Tvam Asi. Vedanta talks about the identity between the Jiva and the Ishvara. So really speaking, in the final analysis, I am the conscious being in whom this world appears. Mayeva sakalam jatam. Mayi sarvam pratishthitam. Mayi sarvam layan yati. Tad brahmadvayam asmyaham. So in me, this whole thing has arisen. Mayeva sakalam jatam. Mayi sarvam pratishthitam. In me, this whole thing is sustained. Mahi sarvam layan yati, and finally the whole thing will withdraw into what? Into me, into this that I don't know, the Vishesha Jnanam of the I that we have been talking about, that real I is one with Ishvara. Tad Brahma Advayam Asmi Aham. I am that non-dual Brahman. This is the knowledge we have to come to. And this is the knowledge that liberates. But as long as these raga-dveshas are there, as long as these raga-dveshas have a hold on my personality, and when I'm saying that I like this, I don't like this, I want to acquire this, I want to push this away, when the mind is in this level of engagement with the world, then even if the knowledge is explained, even if this knowledge is given, even if the pramana is trying to work, it cannot work. And therefore, the Veda comes down to my level. So it says, leave Vedanta aside for some time. I will come down to your level. Ishvara is there. This conscious being is there. For the time being, you take yourself to be separate from Ishvara. But bring Ishvara into your life and start to relate to Ishvara. And how do I relate to the Ishvara? We say, He is the whole. I am a part. He is the Lord. He is the Bhagavan. I am a Bhaktaha. I am a devotee. He is Sarvajnaha. He is all-knowing. Why is he all-knowing? As we said, that a potter needs to have the knowledge to create a pot. He is Ghatagyaha. Knowledge and skill to create the pot. A furniture maker is furniture gyaha. He has a knowledge and skill to create furnitures. But then if Ishvara has become this world, Ishvara has to have a knowledge and skill to create the entire world. And therefore the entire world is everything. Sarvam. Therefore Ishvara is Sarvajnaha. And Sarva Shaktiman, he is all powerful. Because he has to manage the entire world. He has to have the skill to create the entire world. Therefore, he is Sarva Shaktiman. But I am Alpagyaha, Alpa Shaktiman. I have these small powers. I have some powers, but my powers are much, much smaller compared to my knowledge. I am Alpagyaha. My knowledge is very limited. And then I am a doer in this world. I am a karta and I am an experiencer. I am a bhokta. When Ishvara becomes the Karma Phala Dātā. He is the giver of the results of my actions. So Veda says, relate to Ishvara like this. And this is what Veda Purva is about. With Ishvara as Karma Phala Dātā, we will take a look at the Bhagavad Gita shloka number 47 that I had sent in the PDF on the group today. And this is one of the most famous shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita. It is very often quoted. And even when there is a picture of the battle of Mahabharata going on, this shloka is often found written on that. And we all would have heard this at some time or the other in our lives and heard this repeatedly. So we will dwell on the meaning of this because it's relevant for our discussion. I will read the shloka first and then we will look into the meaning. Shloka number 47 of the second chapter. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhuhu ma te sangostva karmani. So in this shloka, Krishna is giving Arjuna some very valuable teaching. Krishna is not giving Arjuna some advice. He's giving a teaching. He's telling a fact about karma, about actions and how this universe works. Just like a fact like water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Somebody tells, the chemistry teacher tells the student water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Then it is not a piece of advice. It is a fact. So this shloka is telling us a fact about the world that everybody has to know. Let us take the first quarter of it. karmanyevadhikaraste. So we split it, it says karmani eva adhikarah te. Te karmani eva adhikarah. So Krishna is saying, you have a choice only with respect to your actions. Karmani eva adhikarah te. Tava adhikarah karmani eva. So again, this brings in the idea of free will. I have a free will. So this is another free will establishing shloka in the Bhagavad Gita. So I have a choice on how I act. I can act in a certain way. I can act in a different way, or I may not act at all. I have a choice in all of this. But this is not so with animals, as we said. Animals don't have this free will. They just go by their instincts. So we say animals don't have this free will. They don't have the choice. They are programmed to do what they do. So let us take an example of me shooting a target with a bow and arrow, let us say. So I pick up the bow, I pick up the arrow, I place the arrow on the bow. And finally, I may decide I don't want to do this at all. I may leave it and go and have a cup of tea. Or I can proceed with this. So I have a choice at that point to not do the action. Or I may choose to proceed. And if I choose to proceed, I have a choice on which target I choose. And then I have a choice on how do I position the arrow on the bow. And then I take the aim and how far back I pull the string. I have a choice in all of that. And then, I may be educated to a certain extent about some of the laws and how this works. I may have undergone some training. So the law of gravitation plays a very important role in this. So even though I am alpagyaha, I have some knowledge about a few laws. And I know about the law of gravitation, which says that that if any object that is traveling, the gravity will pull it down. And therefore, if I aim exactly at a target, then by the time the arrow hits the target, it would have moved down and it would hit below the target. So I can account for this and I can aim a bit higher. In fact, all these experienced archers, they always aim higher than the target because they know that by the time the arrow reaches the target, it will be pulled down. Actually, I was quite a bit surprised. I knew that this is how it works and an archer should take an aim a bit higher. But recently, all this Olympics and all is going on, and I was watching one of the archery events, and I was quite a bit surprised about the trajectory of the arrow in some cases. So the arrow in some cases actually goes like this. The shooter shoots it, and it goes like this before it hits the target. I thought it would be a lot more flatter. It has to have some curve because gravity is pulling it down, but it was much higher than what I expected. So the longer the distance is, one has to take a somewhat higher aim because the arrow has to travel longer and gravity has a greater chance of pulling it down. So one can account for all of this. I have the knowledge. So I have a choice on how high I want to aim the arrow. I can do all of this and take the aim, and then I can control my mind. These people were showing the heartbeat of this archer on the side. That was quite interesting, and it was quite clear also that the archers whose heartbeat was lower at the time of performance of the action, they were doing better than the people whose heartbeats were higher, because at that point they were somewhat agitated. That was a very interesting observation, and that correlates with what Bhagavad Gita also teaches us. So one can bring in, do some pranayama or deep breathing perhaps, and try to limit one's heartbeat, try to stay focused. One can do all of this. Wonderful. You have a choice in all of this. Karmani eva adhikarahate. But the moment the arrow is shot, then Krishna says, now your choice has ended. Your choice has ended at this point. The laws of the universe take over. Ma phaleshu kadachana. So in the phala, in the result, you don't have a choice at all. What happens? The arrow is traveling. Then suddenly there may be a gust of wind that diverts the arrow and it hits something else. Or there may be the wind may actually divert the target. Or the target may be some sentient thing that actually moves. It may be a bird that flies away. Or something else may come in between your arrow and the target. You may hit something else entirely. You have no control over any of this. Ma phaleshu kadachana. So the result is determined by an interplay of a complex network of laws of the universe. And I am not an author of any of these laws. In fact, even my own past karmas may be playing a role in terms of determining the result. I have no control over any of this. I am alpagyaha. This jiva is alpagyaha. Small, no, he knows a little. And because he knows a little, he cannot account for all the variables in the universe. And therefore, he whatever he knows, he does his action based on that. Later on, he might come to know something else, and he says, "I should not have perhaps done it." And he is alpa shaktiman. Even if he knows that whatever he is doing is not going to hit the target, he cannot do anything now because his powers are limited. So, ma phaleshu kadachana. Then Krishna says, Ma karma phala hetuhu abhuhu. Ma karma phala, it is actually abhuhu if we split the third quarter. But because of some rules of Sanskrit grammar, it becomes bhu. So, ma karma phala hetuhu bhuhu. He says, don't try to be the author of the result. Don't try to be the cause of the result. Ma karma phala hetuhu bhuhu. So, whenever somebody accomplishes something, there can be two things that happen. We have seen happen in the world. One is if the action succeeds, then this person says, "I have done it. I have done it." So this leads to arrogance. I arrogate myself to the point that I'm saying that I am the cause of the result. And then one develops perhaps a superiority kind of a complex. That is also a complex. It is not the reality. And on the other hand, if the arrow hits something else, meaning that whatever I tried to do, if it doesn't work, then there can be the other extreme where one says, I have failed miserably. I am no good and I take the blame for it. Now, even this, I am attributing the authorship of the result to myself. So here one develops some kind of an inferiority complex. So there is this yo-yo like response of the mind. If you have seen a yo-yo, it goes down and then it comes up, it goes down, it comes up. So this is the torment of the mind. This is the turbulent mind that we are talking about. So I am burdening myself into thinking that I am the author of the results. But Krishna is reminding us here that you are just the author of the action. You stop with that. The result is coming from the laws of the universe. You are just the karma hetuhu, natu karma phala hetuhu. If I am not the author of these laws, then who is this karma phala hetu? Who is the author of the laws that are giving me the result? As we said, this world has emerged from Ishvara. Just as ornaments have emerged from gold. The ornaments are nothing but gold. This creation is nothing but Ishvara in this form. Vishwarupa Ishvara. That is why in Vishnu Sahasranama also, the first nama is Vishvam. Vishvam, Vishnu. Vishnu comes later. First is Vishvam. Vishwam refers to the one who has manifested as this world. The Ishvara who has manifested as this world. His name is Vishwam. One of his names, one of his 1008 names is Vishwam. So these laws are a part of this world. These laws are governing this world, how this world functions. And where did the laws come from? Laws have also emerged from Ishvara. Ishvara is there in the form of the laws also. Therefore, who is this karma phala hetuhu? Karma phala hetuhu is Ishvara. Therefore, Ishvara becomes the karma phala dātā, the same intelligent and material cause that has manifested this world is also determining the results. So, karma yogi must have this understanding of Ishvara. Otherwise, there is no karma yoga at all. See, people talk about karma yoga in a very secular way. That you just do some good for the society and that becomes karma yoga. There are a lot of people who are trying to do good for the society. They can do the good. That is fine. We don't. That is great. But we say that if their karma has to become this yoga, and one has to bring in this understanding of Ishvara. Without Ishvara, there is no karma yoga. Then, in the last quarter of this, Krishna says, Mate sangostva karmani. Mate sangaha astu akarmani. So there may be the situation that if one faces a few failures, so-called failures in the world, really speaking, we say there is no such thing called failure. If one can learn from one's experience, even if it was an experience where I did not attain something, then it is not a failure anymore because I have learned something. In fact, there was somebody who did a, a lot of work on something, trying to make something work. And all of his attempts failed. He did maybe several dozens of attempts to make the thing work, and all of that failed. And his PhD thesis was why each of his things failed, what was wrong there. That is great learning indeed. Even with respect to the business ideas, when they talk about all these, startups and all that, there also they have this principle. And there is nothing wrong with failure. Try to prototype different things, try to make things work. It's okay if you fail. Try it and fail. That is great. You at least know one more way in which you cannot make this work. Then avoid that and do something else. So there is really no such thing as failure if one is learning from it. So now there may be somebody who says that I tried a few things and it didn't work. So now I'm not going to act at all. I'm going to withdraw. And in fact, this was the tendency of Arjuna also. When it gets, when the going gets tough, sometimes people want to withdraw. We say that there's this saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. But then there are some people who say that when the going gets tough, I'll just withdraw. So Krishna here says, Mate Sangha Astu Akarmani. Inaction is not an option. Withdrawal is not an option. Withdrawal has its place. As we discussed, once one has gained these qualifications, once one has this shama, once one has some of these qualifications, then one gets all of this shamaha, damaha, uparamaha, etc. So that is about not being extroverted, not being too engaged with the world at that point. Why? Because the engagement with the world has accomplished the purpose of giving the qualification, and then one has to come to Shravanam, Mananam, with Nididhyasanam, where there is withdrawal from the world. But until one has accomplished the qualifications, action is the means. So, Mate Sangaha Astu Akarmani. In akarma, in inaction, may you not be attracted to that, Krishna is saying. And this was the advice Krishna gave Arjuna also, that Arjuna has to do his duty in the battlefield. He has to engage. Why? Because only through that he will get the chitta shuddhi that is required for this jnana. So if a person is not prepared, if a person withdraws and is not prepared, then what happens? One may go and sit in some forest, one may try to meditate, but when he is meditating, he is thinking of the business that he left behind. The business, is his partner managing the business properly or not? Or he may be thinking of some other sense object in the world. So these ragas and dveshas are there, the vrittis will arise, but then he has now given up the field, he has given up the playground in which he can neutralize these vrittis. Because action is the means. Therefore, karma as yoga is the means for this purification of the mind. If one withdraws without this purification of the mind, then the ragas and dveshas will torment this person. Therefore, Krishna says that action is the means for growth. Karma is the means for this internal growth. Therefore, do karma as yoga. Now, let us come to what this karma yoga is, putting together all the things that we have seen so far. As we say, karma yoga comprises of two words, karma and yoga. So karma here refers to proper action, and yoga refers to proper attitudes. If proper action is done with proper attitudes, then that becomes a means for this internal growth, where the ragas and dveshas begin to lose their hold on the person. So what is this proper action? The proper action is action in keeping with dharma. So this is where the fourth subtopic of dharma comes in, that we have already covered to some extent, but that which we will review quickly in this context. So what is action in keeping with dharma? We saw two meanings of dharma. We saw three meanings of dharma earlier, but the two meanings are relevant in this context. So we will recall what we discussed earlier. Chodana, Lakshana, Artha, Dharma. This is the first definition of dharma that we saw. The lifestyle or the way of life prescribed by the Vedic injunctions, vidhi and nishedha, do's and don'ts. Just as the constitution of a country prescribes duties for every citizen, similarly Veda prescribes duties for every human being. This is the Veda Purva. So this is all in the context of Veda Purva, as we said. This person has to become an adhikari, and that is why the Veda Purva is in the picture. Once one has become an adhikari, then the Veda Purva goes to the background, Vedanta comes into the picture. So that vidhi and nishedha, the do's and don'ts prescribed by the Veda Purva. And what are these do's and don'ts? We said they are in the form of duties, values, and attitudes. What are these duties? He said, Yajnaha, Danam, Tapaha. Yajnaha, Danam, Tapaha. Yajnaha, reverential offerings. Reverential offerings to whom? We will cover this in the next class. But as we saw, Pancha Mahayajnaha. To Devaha, Ishvara. Devaha, Pitra, to the ancestors. Devaha, Pitra, and then Brahma Yajna, reverential offerings to the rishis. And then Manushya Yajna, offerings to the fellow human beings. And Bhuta Yajna, offerings to all the creatures around me. This is Yajna. And then Danam, doing all forms of charity. And Tapaha, comprising of austerities and disciplines. Yajna, Danam, and Tapaha, these are the duties. And what are the values? We saw this. Satyam Vada, Dharmanchara, and all of that. One has to speak the truth. Satyam Vada, Dharmamchara. One has to abide by, be right in one's conduct. And as we said, many of these attributes are commonsensical attributes. Shruyatam dharma sarvaswam Shrutva chapyavadharyatam atmanah pratikulani paresham nas samachare. I know I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be cheated. I don't want to be lied to. I know this. Who has taught me this? I know. Just like a baby monkey understands gravity from birth. It holds on to the mother monkey. Nobody needs to teach it. Similarly, I know through my common sense, without anybody teaching me, that I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be lied to. I don't want to be cheated. I don't want to be stolen from. I know all of this. And I know that the other person also has the same feeling about himself. This is also common sense. Nobody needs to teach me this. So this becomes the basis for universal dharma. And all of my actions have to be in keeping. Then what are the attitudes? Matradevo bhava, Pitradevo bhava, Acharya devo bhava, Atithi devo bhava. I have to be this person for whom my mother is like Ishvara. Father is like Ishvara. Acharya is like Ishvara. Atithi is like Ishvara. So these are the attitudes that the Veda Purva is teaching me. All of my actions have to be in keeping with this. Then it becomes proper action. So then we saw the second meaning of dharma also, which is relevant in this context. Dharanat dharma. That which sustains the order, harmony, well-being, that is dharma. Dharanat dharma ityahu dharmo dharayati prajaha. Yasya dharana sanyuktaha sa dharma iti nischayah. That which sustains is most definitely it dharma, that which sustains the well-being of the individual or the family, of the society, or the environment. As we said, all other creatures are operating as per they are programmed. They cannot do any wrong. When an insect does something, it is doing something that will eventually help in maintaining this entire creation. The same with every bird, every animal. They are whatever they are doing, they are helping the maintenance of the creation. There can be no wrong that they do. On the other hand, the human being has this free will. And therefore, the possibility of abuse of the free will is there because of the ragas and dveshas. And therefore, a human being can have what is right, what is wrong. A human action can be classified as right or wrong. And the right action in any situation becomes the duty of the human being. We saw various examples of a team. When there is a team of players, then each person has an assigned role to do. The goalkeeper has to sit near the goalpost, has to stand near the goalpost and guard it. Whereas this quarterback or whoever is running around, who is the prime offensive player, his role is to go and try and kick the goals. Now, if the goalkeeper starts to run around, that causes chaos in the team. But when every team member does their job and the whole team works very beautifully, there is harmony in the team. Similarly, we saw this example of a machine where there are gears and bolts. If the bolt says that the gear is also having all the fun, I want to move like the gear. And the bolt starts to move and it moves and it falls. The nut starts to move, let us say. The nut moves and gets dislodged from the bolt. The whole machine can come crashing down. So the nut's job is to sit tight and hold the machine together. The gear's job is to move and do the function of the machine. So each individual, each entity in this creation has got its role. One has to recognize what my role is in the scheme of things and do that. Similarly, there is this entire orchestra that is going on. Every musician is playing the notes that he's supposed to play at the right times. If a musician says, I will play whatever I feel like at this point, then it results in a cacophony. On the other hand, if every musician strikes the right notes at the right time, then there is beautiful music. In fact, the word harmony originates from music, I suppose. So there is harmony in the creation if every individual creature recognizes what the role is. The animals don't have to do this special recognition of their role. They are programmed to do what they have to do. As a human being, because there is a possibility of abuse of the free will, one has to recognize what one's role is and do the right thing. And doing the right thing becomes the duty of the human being. One becomes a contributor to the creation then, not just a consumer. By doing one's duty, by recognizing one's role, and by doing those actions, one becomes a contributor. So this is proper action in keeping with dharma. As we said, the raga dveshas are there, so there will be artha kama pursuits, but the artha and kama pursuits need to be subservient to dharma. They cannot violate dharma in the process. So there are these two things that one has to be sensitive to: what is samanya dharma and what is vishesha dharma. As we said, Samanya Dharma is this common sense Dharma. I don't want to be lied to, I don't want to be cheated, hurt, etc. This is universal. It applies to every human being, no matter what the time is, no matter what the place is. This is Samanya Dharma, the general rule that applies. But then, this is not absolute. No law is absolute. We have the law, we have the driving in traffic, for example. In India, the rule is drive on the left. In US, the rule is drive on the right. So it varies based on the place. So there is no absolute law. And even in India, for example, if I'm driving on the left, and if there is a truck approaching me from the front, then I swerve to the right. Why? In order to avoid the accident. At that point, I cannot say the dharma is to drive on the left and therefore I will continue to drive on the left. That is not the right thing to do. Therefore, there is this vishesha dharma that varies from time, person, place, situation. Based on the person, based on the place, based on the situation, there is a dharma that can vary. That is called vishesha dharma. So in some cases, in general, speaking the truth is the right thing to do. But then, in some cases, staying silent or even speaking the untruths may be the right thing to do. We saw the example of the lady who was being chased, and she came running in a forest and pleaded help from a rishi who was sitting there. So he signaled her to go in, and then the goons came after her and they asked the rishi, where did the lady go? So at this point, the rishi cannot say, my samanya, my dharma is to speak the truth, and so she went there. He cannot say that. That is not the right thing to do. Therefore, he just signals them in a particular, some other direction. Goons go off in that direction. So in this case, the lady is the beneficiary. So in special cases, when I am not the beneficiary, when somebody else is the beneficiary, in that case, one has to very carefully evaluate it, and then one can engage in some vishesha dharma. Or there is, as we saw, not hurting anybody is a samanya dharma, but then for a surgeon, he has to use the knife. He cannot say that the samanya dharma is ahimsa, so I will not cut this patient. This patient has been given the anesthesia, is lying on the bed. He's waiting for you to operate. He is in pain. He was in pain at least. He will be in pain again if you don't do this surgery. So the Vishesha Dharma is that for the doctor is to cut, to inflict a wound for a greater good. And so is the Dharma of a soldier to defend his country. He may have to engage in himself. And he is sanctioned to do that because that is his Vishesha Dharma. So proper action is action in keeping with the Samanya and Vishesha Dharma. So there is more to discuss here, but I will conclude at this point and we'll continue this discussion in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So any comments or questions? Yes, Vishwanathan ji.
Yeah, so I could attend. I don't want to miss this class, Guruji.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Because,
So you are still in Ayodhya? You are still in Ayodhya?
yeah, we had a night, the Sayana Harati, and then
Oh, okay.
wonderful half an hour darshan.
Very, very nice, very nice.
And the energy was so superb. There was no crowd. And Sri Ramji has blessed all of us here. Prayed for all welfare of all of us. And then I communicated to you yesterday that we need to spiritually grow. We need your guidance through Rama's guidance, Rama's blessings.
Thanks for conveying our prayers and for asking for the blessings.
Absolutely.
Very nice, very nice.
Thank you, sir. So I'll just ask only one question before other people, they can raise their own questions. What I want to ask is, again, I'm just repeating. Still, I got confused in the last class as well as the earlier class.
Yes.
In the You said that the conscious being is Ishvara, and Ishvara is the whole thing, both intelligent cause as well as material cause.
Yes.
But still, something creations are happening, either because of the law of karmas, whatever it is. My question is, what is the purpose of this whole creation? That is what I'm still confused. Maybe I'm asking the repeated question. So if you can just give me some clarity on that, that will be great. What?
Yes.
Purpose? Why Ishvara has led to this creation?
Yes. Basically, we will get into this topic in a lot more detail later. But
Okay.
I can only give some brief answers at this point, unless the
Okay.
told the other topics are introduced. It may not make as much sense. But
Okay.
basically, the jivas have to be given the experiences that come from their punyas and papas. They have to go through through those experiences. The jivas have to go through them because that is the law of karma. Right? If you have done something, then one has to have the result of that experience.
Yeah.
So, unless there is a world that the jiva can interact with, one cannot be given the experiences. One cannot have the experiences, the sukha and dukha that one has to get because of one's punya and papa. And therefore, this creation comes about because of the samashti karma, we say. So each individual jiva has got the jiva's own vyashti, punya and papa. Individual punya and papa are there. But this entire creation has to account for every jiva's punya and papa. So the samashti punya and papa is what brings this creation into being. There have to be higher lokas because there are jivas who have done extremely good things. They have done a lot of dharma karyam. They have to be given the result of it. They have to go through the pleasurable experiences for whatever they have done. Some jivas may have done karmas that through which they deserve being in Swargaloka, for example. So the Swargaloka has to be there. Similarly, there may be other jivas who have done a lot of papa karmas. And the law of karma mandates that they have to go to Narakam for that. So the Naraka has to be there. So the 7 upper lokas, the lower lokas have to be created.
Okay.
And similarly, a jiva cannot undergo any experiences until the jiva has got the sukshma sthula shariras. The jiva has to have a body. Only through a body the jiva can have the experiences. The jiva has to be given the bodies also. So basically, this is the answer that is given for this question.
Yeah, you said that in the other class also, same thing you said. There is no beginning and ending. So my question was how the first creation of jivas happened, because there is no punya power prior to that. You told me that.
Yes. So there is no first creation. Ishvara is imperishable. Aksharat sambhavati ha vishwam. Akshara means the imperishable one. The imperishable one is one who neither had a beginning nor an end. So see, Ishvara has been around forever. And what is Ishvara's job? Karma Phala Dātā. Ishvara has to give the results of the karmas. How can Ishvara give the results of the karmas? By bringing this creation.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Over to
So
other people.
it is not like Ishvara. It is not like Ishvara has this, this raga that raga or dvesha that I have to engage in this creation or I should not engage in it, etc. It is a law of karma. Ishvara always acts according to the law of karma.
Yeah, agreed.
Ishvara doesn't have any individual wish of his own.
Correct.
Ishvara has to act according to the law of karma. The law of karma requires a creation. So that is why when pralayam is there, it is as if you are sleeping. When the individual is sleeping, nothing is there. But then the individual wakes up. When he wakes up, the whole world comes into being, right? So what wakes up this individual is also that individual's karmas only.
Yeah, correct.
So similarly, Ishvara, this samashti karma at some point dictates when karmas of jivas have begun to ripen. At this point, the jiva have to be given their dues. Ishvara brings out the creation.
Right, sir. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah. Hari Om. Yeah.
Hari Om. Anything else?
Once again, very nice class. Very, I mean, this is not a question or whatever, but I mean, parallels of what we can find in Tirukural. Like, so many things what we're saying today are exactly mentioned there as well.
Yes.
Very.
Yes. In fact, Tirukural also has its basis in the Vedas only.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there is an attempt to create this split as if it is a different teaching altogether, which is not the case.
Correct. In fact, it follows the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha segments, and in each, specifically each couplet talks about one pearl of wisdom from what we learn from Veda actually. And today's session is on, there's one good Kural which I'm reminded of today, which says, Uranguvadu polum sakkadu, Urangi vizhippadu polum pirappu. Death is not like, everything comes to an end. It is just like how you sleep. And every birth is, and this is
very nice.
It has on multiple levels actually. I mean, apparent meaning is this, but more deeper meanings are what you mentioned today.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Anything else? Okay, then we'll conclude today.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, sir.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Satyaji. Thank you.
Hari Om.